We're going to turn a 2D shape layer into 3D using some layer styles. So let's get started. So when it comes to 3D shapes, it may get a little intimidating because of all the angles and all the transformations that you need to do in order to make that 3D shape. Another way to make shapes look 3D is by using layer styles, which we will learn about in this lesson. So first, let's go ahead and make our 2D composition. I will use the shapes that are available in After Effects. First, let's make a composition. I'm going to call it 2D Shapes, 1920 by 1080. You can choose the one you prefer and then hit OK. So now I have my background, which you can change by holding down Command and pressing K or Control K. Then you can change your background color right here. I'm going to stick with this dark blue. Now let's make our floor for the shape to kind of bounce on. So grab a fill color. I think I'll go with a nice orange. Add that right underneath. Let's rename this floor. And now grab your shape. I will get a circle, hold down Shift to make a perfect shape. Control double click on the anchor point tool to bring the anchor point to the center. Let's change the color of our shape so it looks a little different. I think I'll make it the same color as our background and instead change my background color to white. So as you can see, I have some pretty simple 2D shapes. Let's name this. Simple 2D shapes, and instead of making them 3D and then working with my camera, the tools up here, which can get a little confusing when you're first starting out, I will use a simpler method to make these look 3D. Let's align this in the center. And before I get started, I'm just going to decorate my floor. So select your layer, go to Effect, Generate, and then choose the Gradient Ramp. Let's grab the start of our ramp, put it right here, and find the color. And just decorate the way my ground looks. For the second color, I will go with the same orange, but make it a little brighter. Something like this. I think we have to go a little bit brighter than that. There we go. So this looks a little bit more three-dimensional just by adding a gradient map. You can also swap the colors and see which one looks better for you. Since I want my light source to be from here, I'm going to keep the lighter side towards the top and the darker side towards the bottom. Alright, so that's our floor. We can also do something with the background. So Command Y or Control Y. And let's choose a white background for now. Bring it underneath our shapes. Get the same, let's actually get it from here. Type in gradient in the effects and presets. Add the gradient ramp to your background layer and let's choose a different color, maybe a subtle blue. Select the start of your ramp, place it at the start and the end somewhere that looks nice. I think I'll stick with here. You could, of course, leave your background be flat. It's all up to you. I'm going to try radial ramp. Maybe that will give us a nice result. There we go. I think I'll stick with radiant. The end of your ramp determines how large this circle is. Until you're happy with it, you can also swap the colors and see which one looks the best. Click away once you're finished, and now we can start with our circle, which currently looks pretty flat. We have our ball, and it's time to animate the position so that it bounces on the floor and then rolls out of frame. So first, let's hit P on our circle. I'm going to change the color because we're going to be focusing on this layer for now. Lock the other two layers and hit P on circle. Right-click on the position text, separate dimensions. So we get position X and position Y. First, let's choose position Y and bring this guy all the way down to the floor. Then create a keyframe, move in about 20 frames, and then make another keyframe. We're going to work with the speed later, so just create these like so. Now, in between these two keyframes, we're going to bring this guy upwards, like this. Make sure it's in the frame. And then we're just gonna easy ease this middle keyframe. So hit F9 on your keyboard, or right-click, go to Keyframe Assistant, easy ease. And now we're basically going to get something like this. I'm going to hit N on my keyboard to close off the workspace. So now when we play this back, it's going to just go up and come down. And essentially, we just created a loop for the bouncing ball. But as you can see, the movement is just really artificial and everything is moving in on one rate. So what we want to do is to select our middle keyframe, go to the speed graph. Right here, you will see something like this. Be sure that you're on speed graph and not value graph. And then selecting the middle keyframe, we're just going to push these guys back around 80%, 81%. Do the same thing on the other side. So this is going to make the ball kind of chill in the air before making its way down. So if you play this back, it's gonna kind of stay up there and then come down. So now we have a more natural bounce effect for the ball. Let's click this again to go out of the speed graph. Select all three keyframes. Then on this last keyframe, hit Command V or Control V to paste the values, and keep doing this until you reach the end of your composition. Just be sure that you're on the last keyframe before hitting Command V. So I copied everything and I'm gonna hit N on my last keyframe so that I can see what the loop looks like before moving forward. So now we just have a really slow bounce effect for our ball. Now we're going to work with the X rotation because I wanted to kind of show up from one side, bounce, and then roll off to the other side. Activate the stopwatch on X position, one at the beginning and one at the end. And then we're gonna go back to our first keyframe, move it all the way towards the right. You can see that we're extending the Y rotations. Keep going until you're out of frame so that the ball shows up from the side and just goes on like this. At the last keyframe, we want to do the same thing but onto the other side. We can have it somewhere around here. So once we play this back, the ball is going to show up from the side, do a few bounces, and then it's going to leave the other way. Now in the last keyframe for X position, we're going to right click, Keyframe Assistant, and choose Easy Ease In or Shift F9. And this is going to make the movement a lot better. Like so. Now what we want to do is to make this more natural, because currently if you go on Y position, you can see that every bounce is identical. And that's just not the case with real balls. When they drop down, they start really high. And as they bounce, they lose that energy until they're flat on the ground. So to recreate that, we need to move these guys downwards. and just make this look more realistic. So select all of the keyframes that were easy eased, the ones that look like hourglasses. Hold down Shift, select all of them except the first one. Just gonna lower the Y position around halfway or lower than the first one. So this is our first keyframe. The rest need to be somewhere around here. Hold down Shift and deselect the other one. Move to the next keyframe. Move these guys down. Deselect that keyframe and then go to the final hourglass keyframe and make it almost flat. So now when we play this back, we have a more realistic bounce effect. You can see it loses its energy and then it just drops at the bottom. I'm going to open up my workspace so that we can see the ball after it has landed. So it's just going to sit there after the bouncing and chill on the side. So we got our base movements done. In the next lesson, we're going to make this animation more realistic. I'll see you guys there.